Hello and welcome to the Dee Estuary on the Wirral, which long-term viewers of the channel may recognise because I've been here before. About 18 months ago, I came to see this boat behind me, Surinder, which was bought by a somewhat crazy couple, they won't mind me saying, on a complete whim late one night off eBay. The boat is entirely made of wood and it's historic. It dates back to World War II and they saw it for sale. They thought it needs restoration. We will save it. So they bought it and they've been working on it ever since. So in 18 months, have they managed to fix the boat up? Well, no, but let's go and see what they have done. Gemma and Simon are the husband and wife behind the work, here pretending to be cutting some wood while I film them. And this is what ML1392, aka Surinder, looked like when I filmed the first time around. It really was in a poor state, and to be fair, much of it remains in need of work since there is so much to do. But head down below decks and it's a different story. Here's what the inside of the hull looked like at the bow, and Gemma had been showing me how they were individually replacing each rotten wooden strut using traditional copper nails banged in by hand and roved at the end to keep them secure. Well, now look at the bow. Beautifully solid new wood, all painted up, and look at all those copper nails holding everything in place. They've done both sides of the bow right down to the keel, although as you can see some temporary bracing is still in place to keep things in shape while further work is done, because the ceiling here is yet to be sorted. Thick metal wires hang across the space, ensuring the sides stay put when the supports are removed. L-shaped corner brackets do the same sort of job where the ceiling meets the new wooden beams. You might, somewhat unkindly, say, well, is that all they've done in 18 months? But bear in mind, it is largely just Simon and Gemma doing this at weekends and any other free time they might have, and that all this wood has had to be individually stripped out, new pieces made, and when you're replacing these beams, you've got to knock them into place, put a copper nail in through, put a top over the end of the nail and hammer it into place. It is painstaking work, and honestly, standing here, I can tell you that the transformation is astonishing compared to how it was.
We've had to replace 99% of the frames, quite a lot of the stringers and all of the web frames, so it's been a massive challenge, but we've perfected a few techniques. So when you first come, we were roving all the copper nails with a hammer, which was really hard going considering there's about 30 nails in each frame. So we come up with an idea and we got ourselves an electric palm nailer. It's designed for putting nails in when you're doing woodwork and driving your nails in really easy. But we adapted a rove tool. So instead of me having to hammer loads each rove to get it peened round, we now have got a bit of a cheat, which has really sped up the process.
The progress on the sides is in stark contrast to the still sad situation above, where the ceiling, which is also the floor of the wheelhouse and the cabin above, has seen better days. But elsewhere on the boat, the pair have replaced similarly rotten overhead timbers, which, when I last visited, looked in danger of coming down on your head at any moment. Now the main cabin has an entirely new and fully insulated roof. The top of the wheelhouse cabin has also been remade. On the other side of it, that ceiling is the forward top deck of the boat, which looked like this 18 months ago. Now remade with fiberglass over a wood frame, it means this section of the boat is finally waterproof.
It was a huge job. It took us like a whole week of actually on site installing the roof, but but then running up to it took us a week to actually prepare it, to make all the beams in the workshop, then transport them all over. And we put 18mm marine plywood over the top to give it some structure, and then we fiberglassed over the top of it to make it nice and watertight. There is probably about 5% of the original roof, which is the combing around the wheelhouse, because it's very detailed and it wasn't actually rotten, so we basically retained that and we've refiberglassed over it, so it retains the original shape of the boat basically.
There is progress elsewhere in the boat too. This bulkhead next to the engine room has now been sanded back to the original wood. Gemma plans to turn this into a history wall with pictures and information about the boat. Intriguingly, the wood bears the mark of where the old fuel tank used to be attached. In the engine room itself, the same process of replacing rotten wood will be done just as at the bow. But the curves of the beams here are very pronounced, and with steaming the wood to bend it not a viable option, Simon and Gemma are laminating thin strips of wood which will bend, held in place by a screw as the beam is pushed into place. And there's a logistical urgency to getting this done so that other vital repairs can get underway.
We need to get all the woodwork done to take advantage of the hole in the decks, because that's what's allowing us to get the frames down. But the decks are in really bad condition and we really need to get them replaced. So we're trying to get the front half of the woodwork done to allow us then to replace the decks, which we are hoping will be this summer. But there's a lot of work involved in the decks, because we've got the deck beams and we've also got the beam shelf to replace before we can even put any decks on.
Speaking of the engine room, the twin Caterpillar motors have themselves been given some love with a service of new oil and filters to keep them running smoothly. So a huge amount of work has already been done, though when I showed the project 18 months ago, many commentators said it was a hopeless ambition. Gemma and Simon will admit there have been struggles.
I think the low points are like every time you lift up a bit of floor and it's
see more
shoved
ballast.
with ballast.
Yeah.
And the ballast, you know, the lead blocks are great, but there's a lot of bags of shot and it's all steel shot. And because it's rusted over time, it's then expanded. And just to get them out of the bilges, it takes like a good hour of just chipping away at it and getting it out literally piece by piece. So they're definitely the lows, aren't they?
So we have a lot of like sore fingers and hands where we've sort of clashed with hammers and stuff.
You know, when you just lift the floor up, you go, oh no! Or when we lift it up and it's empty, we really celebrate. So.
Well, we're probably only about a few more days worth of that, so we're actually nearing the end of the ballast, so that's good.
Outside, the hull above water level has been painted with primer, in part thanks to an army of volunteers who saw the boat on YouTube and wanted to help. The main planks are in excellent condition, although below the waterline it'll have to wait a while yet until the boat can be moved. It is, at present, sitting in thick, gloopy mud, which has turned out to be both a blessing and a curse.
Everyone at the beginning was like, you can't do that work where you are in the mud. And, you know, like, we're 2 years into the build now, and I think a lot of people have realised that we can overcome issues that we've got like that.
Yeah, we've actually realised the mud is actually our friend. It's the best possible cradle for the boat. It's perfect fitting, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
She's in a nice, comfortable, safe location. So, yeah, it makes life a bit harder for us moving materials. Like, when we done the roof and we had to move over 14 8x4 sheets of marine ply. It's a challenge, isn't it? But it's nothing that can't be overcome.
There's still clearly a tremendous amount of work to be done. Nobody's doubting that. But the hope is to be ready for the 85th anniversary of D-Day in 2029. And this pair are undaunted.
It is really hard work, but we love it. You know, at the end of a really hard day and a really tiring work day, to then take a step back and see what you've achieved is worth it. So yeah, it is hard work, but we're loving the whole process.
We sometimes leave the boat and we think we haven't really done much, but then all these tiny little bits we sort of replace each time. It all adds up, and then we look back and go, oh, okay, yeah, we did a good job there.
Is it worth it?
Of course it's worth it. what else would I be doing with my life? This is my life's work now.
If you'd like regular updates about the progress on Surinder, head over to the Ship Happens YouTube channel, a link for which I've left in the video description. They'd love your support.
When we started doing this project, it was obviously just me and Simon, and 99% of the work still is just me and Simon, but it's the people we've got behind us that really help motivate us and really help move the project along. So even though it's just us two building a boat, without the community that we've got and our wonderful viewers and supporters, it wouldn't be possible, and we wouldn't be as far along as we are now, would we, without them all? So we really appreciate everyone who even just comments something nice and positive,
yes,
because things like that are really encouraging, aren't they?
Yeah.
When you've grafted all week on the boat and it's really tiring, it's really nice to actually see the inputs off other people and how people are enjoying it.
Thanks for watching. Cheerio.